So, spruce beer then. Delicious, delicious spruce beer. I think the first time I heard of using spruce as an ingredient in beer was in Charlie Paperzian's book. I think it's called The Joy of Homebrewing. It's probably one of the first homebrewing books I ever bought, actually. He described an account of a time where he had a spruce beer made by a friend of his in Colorado. And he likened the flavour to kind of like a natural version of Dr. Pepper, which I thought was actually quite strange, because if you associate spruce with that kind of car air freshener smell, which is something I didn't want in beer, that's for sure. So I took stock of that and forgot about it for a little while. I then came across it again in a book that's actually just titled Homebrew Beer by Greg Hughes, I think it is. And that had a recipe for spruce beer in it as well. So there's two homebrew books that have got recipes for spruce beer. As you can probably imagine, Emily wasn't overly impressed when I said I was going to go out into the garden and pull some twigs off the tree and boil that up and drink it. She's right. At the end of the day, you have to make sure that if you're taking anything from outdoors, from trees, plants, number one rule is don't kill yourself. So that got me thinking. I thought, well, is spruce an ingredient that you can actually get hold of as a home brewer in the UK? Is it something that you can actually find and pick and use in your beer? So I thought, alright, here we go. I'm now on the quest to find spruce tree, get its new green growth and stick it in some beer. Fortunately, I didn't actually have to look very far. I was very lucky in the sense that the only tree, bizarrely, in my garden when I was a student happened to be just a massive spruce tree, and I kind of fell on my feet with that one. It was quite lucky. Prior to me discovering that it was actually a spruce tree, myself and my friends used to call it the poo tree, and it sounds like a silly name, but that's only because the pine cones of the spruce tree, when they're not fully mature, they basically look like a shit. There's no two ways about it, and it drops them on the ground. So I thought, well, as soon as I've discovered that this is a spruce tree, this is brilliant, let's brew a beer with it. I think the first beer I brewed with spruce we called it Poo Tree Porter, after the poo tree itself. Oh shit, there's some geese over there. You can see these. They get quite aggressive this time of year, so I'm actually going to turn around. Not that I can't fight off a goose, actually. I would just rather not disturb them, they've got babies and what have you. Where was I? Oh yeah, Poo Tree Porter. That was really, really nice. I didn't write down very many detailed tasting notes, and it was just a can of light malt extract and a can of dark malt extract. And then with 150 grams of spruce thrown in at the beginning of the boil, and some pretty simple hop additions, nothing really to shout about. I thought that was really nice. So when next year rolled around, I thought, okay, here we go, I know that's a spruce tree, let's collect up a bunch and let's make a pale ale this time. And voila, we had born Poo Tree Pale. Very original name, again. This one, by this time I'd actually learnt how to do all grain brewing. It was quite a low efficiency, actually. It only came out at about 3.6%, but that was perfect, because I tell you what, sat in my garden in the summer with a glass of Poo Tree Pale Ale, once again, doesn't sound all that appetising. It was delicious, and Charlie Paperzian's right, it does have a sort of natural Dr. Pepper kind of flavour to it, and it doesn't taste like a car air freshener. It tastes piney, like resinous, some of the things that you get in hops, actually. I'm sure a lot of the aromatics and stuff inside spruce plants are shared with hops, because hops share lots of fruits, aromatic compounds. But yeah, it was brilliant. So this year I thought to myself, right, I'm not wasting any of the spruce. The only problem was I actually moved out of that house where the spruce tree was in the back garden, so I had to find more. I had to find more spruce trees, and particularly had to find some that weren't in people's gardens or on private land. I needed to find something that I could actually get hold of. And here is the spruce tree that I managed to find. This one is on my cycle route, so I pass it every day, which means I can check to see when the new green growth is coming. For this particular tree, it started around the 5th of May, and it's now the 23rd of May, so it's still going, and you can see that a lot of this green growth is quite developed. One problem I should mention with this tree, however, it is actually quite close to a fairly busy road, and anyone who's foraged for things, berries and what have you, will always try and avoid anything that's near a road because you do get bits and pieces of fumes come through. Oh, also this is in somebody's front garden, so perhaps it's not appropriate to just nick things off their tree. So if we take a closer look at the spruce tree, I've taken off one of the small branches here. There are 3 main lookout signs, so you know that it's a spruce. If you take away one of these needles here, and just pull it out gently, you can see it's got a wooden stub on the end, and that goes all the way along the branches. Each needle is attached to a wooden stub. Some conifers and fir trees don't have that. If you actually look at the needle itself as well, you can see that it's a triangular prism. Other conifers and fir trees are flat needles. One other telltale sign that it's a spruce, but bear in mind that lots of other fir trees and evergreens do this, is that around mid-May time they put off this lovely green growth. It's kind of like a Colgate green colour. Very different, and compared to the rest, this is very hard and very bristly. Compared to that, that's actually very soft. Now, here is a prime example of a coniferous tree that kind of looks like a spruce. It's got that new green growth on it, but this is how you'll tell the difference here. You take off the needles and you look at them closely, and they are in fact flat. So you can see that you can't roll this in your fingers at all. One thing that is a bit of a pain in the arse about spruce trees is its seasonality, really. I appreciate the fact that all fruits and vegetables that you're ever going to use in brewing your beer, they only grow at certain times of year, and you're not going to get them in the winter. It's pretty simple. So spruce blooms with its green growth from mid-May towards the end of May. Some spruce trees do it a little bit earlier, some a little bit later. So I, however, would like to brew more spruce beer this year. So I'm going to try and collect more than I actually need and freeze it so I can make another spruce pale ale ready for August or September. That would be brilliant. Am I playing God? No, just being creative, just being a creative homebrewer. As I've been learning to identify spruce trees, actually you can pick out their outline on the horizon. They do have quite a distinctive shape. So there is one right there, quite a big one. There they are. My spruce trees of choice. It's actually 2 next to each other, one smaller one, one bigger one. I'm choosing these trees to harvest from this year, mostly because it's quite a secluded location on the university campus, and I haven't quite got that hippie confidence to just go out picking stuff. You do get people looking at you a bit funny. So yeah, this is where I'll harvest most of my stuff for the year. I think it's, as you can see, it's not actually a huge proportion of the tree, so I would advise against harvesting from a sapling, because at the end of the day you are taking its growth. That's right, it's official, I'm lame. I even bought a set of scales with me. God. Look at that. It's beautiful, isn't it? Perfect. Soft. And you crush it up in your hands and you get this amazing spruce aroma. Oh, be careful not to get any insects in there. I did find a very small, albeit small, dead ladybird in my mash, not my mash tun, my boiler last year. So you can see that this tree actually is not quite as developed as the one that's in that person's garden, which I think is probably better. I'm not sure what the biological changes that actually happen in the spruce tips themselves are, but I know it goes harder. I don't know where the aromatics go and why they can't be accessed when you boil the sticks, like the old growth. But when I was first researching into doing this a few years ago, I did actually try to make some spruce tea out of just old spruce, so you know, the bristly stuff. That didn't turn out all that great actually. It was quite bitter and rather unsurprisingly tasted of sticks. Not really on my flavour wheel of things that I enjoy, sticks. Now the good thing about this tree is, as you can probably hear, it's not close to a road. Nor is it in plain view of gawpers. Not that I would mind anybody asking me what I'm doing, I just prefer to be getting on with it by myself. So there we have it. That's 1 season's worth of spruce collected. I've actually been a bit greedy and collected 3 brews worth of spruce this year. But look, I mean, on the grand scheme of things, I haven't damaged the tree in any way. Okay, so this tree is actually just behind White Knight's house on the university campus, so if anybody wants to come back here to take some spruce, if they want to have a go at brewing with it themselves, be my guest. You know, there's plenty to go around, as you can see.